Welcome to She Blaze, where we're bringing you cannabis culture from a woman's point of view. And as always, here to elevate the cannabis industry. I'm one of your hosts, Ice Dawson, Cannabis Socialite.
Yes. Hey, and I am Dasheeda Dawson, the WeedHead.
Oh, you are the WeedHead.
I am, and welcome to another week of She Blaze.
Yes, and on today's episode of She Blaze, we're discussing NYPD's Big Bust. Yes. A judge votes in favor of a medical marijuana patient, and 7 ways to make money in the cannabis industry right now.
Like right now.
Immediately.
Like right now. Because of course, that is like one of the number one questions that we get all of the time. But before we get into those topics, we've got to start with our high of the week.
Yeah.
I want everybody to put their high of the week in the comments. We're going to actually start doing some sort of contest because I want more people to tell me what you're high on. Okay, so I'm going to kick things off with what I am high on. I am high on a new strain for me called Cinex. And it is made by Old Pal. It is a flower strain, and I'm super excited about it because it actually was affordable. So we're always talking about how Nevada has some of the most expensive legal cannabis, and that is not a lie. We ran into a dispensary that is running daily deals on their half ounces and their ounces, and we were able to pick this ounce for $100, which is amazing.
It's a steal.
It's
a
real
major steal.
Especially because it was good flour, good nugs, and now we've got quite a bit for the house.
Yes, we do, and it was one of our best buys. But my high of the week is slightly a little different.
Okay.
My high of the week is Kush Cookies Crumbled, powered by some Tangy flour.
Okay. Well, you always I gotta ask questions because you mix it up for us a little bit.
For sure.
So the Kush cookie is the strain, right?
Yes.
And then crumble, that's a type of cannabis concentrate.
Yes.
Or extract. It essentially is highly concentrated with THC and others. It has terpenes and everything.
Yes, that one particularly has terpenes. Yes, it does.
Wow. Okay. And then you also had a Tangy. You said powered by, meaning that's sort of the base of it. Your Tangy flower.
Yes.
Which is the bud that everybody's used to.
Mm-hmm.
We clearly are gonna have to do a little education for folks who are listening.
Have to break it down. We gotta bring an expert in.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, that sounds like a good idea, especially when you're talking about crumble and all of these different types of things. I know people are like, what the hell is she talking about? But we'll break it down for you. So, oh my goodness, sativa it out.
Oh, yes. So I am a sativa diva from like literally head to toe, and I'm on go.
Yes, and you have been on go finding these hot topics. So I know that those people listening to us on SoundCloud and iTunes probably did not hear your shade in the big bust for NYPD. But I want to get into these hot topics because what are you talking about this quote unquote big bust for NYPD?
Well, this big bust is really a hilarious story because we can laugh at the NYPD because they seized cannabis flower, but it was hemp. It was legal hemp, you guys.
Oh my goodness.
It is from a hemp farm in Vermont, and they shipped the 106 pounds worth of hemp through FedEx. FedEx called the good old boys in blue and asked them to come down. And so when the person went to go pick up their package, they got a huge surprise.
Of course.
As, it was probably felt like a cartel bust, if anything.
Right.
And he brought out the information that he needed, like his certificate of analysis, his receipt of the company, his company. Mm-hmm. And they were like, we don't trust it. We're going to use our tax-paying money to send it to our labs and get it tested by our laboratory. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yes. Congratulations, NYPD. You're so smart.
Oh, my goodness. And what was even more interesting is that they were posting about this on social media.
Okay.
That's even worse. Our Wisconsin incident, the police department there also posted about it. They were showing our African black soap and talking about it with Dab. So again, this doesn't make NYPD seem very smart, but also it makes me worried about my home states state of New York. Here, you have made so many strides. We were talking about it in the hemp program, but I would be really, really like, you know, a little bit cautious in proceeding with any business around hemp in New York if my inventory or my supply could be held up in this manner. Because while they're doing all the, you know, testing using taxpayers' dollars, this poor legitimate company and owner has to wait for that to even be done. And all of that 106 pounds is just waiting there, right, you know, with the rest of it. So it tells me that, you know, the New York Police Department needs to be retrained and re-educated. Shout out to CEASE is what we do. And we have a lot of lawmakers and law enforcers that are not educated enough around what's changing in not just the state, but in this case, federally. This hemp being under 0.3%, it's legal what this person in this entity was doing. So it's kind of like, nah, you don't, shame on NYPD, you're wasting a lot of taxpayers' money.
Right. Well, speaking of interesting lawmakers.
Okay.
The Massachusetts governor put out a emergency vape ban for 4 months in September.
Okay.
Well, recently, a Superior Court judge ruled in favor of medical marijuana patients being exempt from the vape ban.
Yep. That's a good do. Yeah. Okay, tell us more.
He clearly understands what's going on, but this vape ban was on e-cigarettes and on THC vape. So now, you know, medical marijuana patients, as soon as possible, can go into their dispensaries and purchase vapes, which is the medicine they need.
Yeah. Well, also, Massachusetts, just to remind our followers and listeners, Massachusetts is a fully legal state. So from an adult use perspective, if you're over 21, you can go into the dispensary and buy it. But this judge, shout out to the Superior Court Judge Douglas Wilkins, this judge is actually saying medical marijuana patient card holders are special, as they should be. They've been deemed, having a medical ailment that qualifies to get the card, and they shouldn't be inhibited from getting their medicine simply because the governor has kind of overreacted to a quote unquote vape crisis. Plus, this judge also knows that the law says that the governor can't do that. Why? Because there's a Cannabis Control Commission that regulates marijuana products, and it's only that commission that could put a ban on marijuana vape products. And because we know in the industry that this crisis hasn't really been originating from the legal marijuana market, it doesn't make sense that it would be banned.
Well, it's a fake crisis.
It is a fake crisis. It's a PR crisis.
Basically. But a shout out to these medical marijuana patients. That's so exciting. And medical marijuana patients are really the heart of the cannabis industry. And it could lay some great foundation for our third hot topic.
Okay.
Yes, which honestly, we need to send our hearts out to these medical marijuana patients because they're starting to feel the weight of how much money it costs to have your medicine.
This is true.
It's expensive. A New Mexico caretaker reportedly says she spends about $300 on a 2-ounce bottle of CBD oil, and it only lasts for about a month and a half, which she's probably being, precautious about how much she's even using. Is she really using the recommended dose if it's a $300 process, or the dose that really, really is like to really help?
The better for her. I mean, well, everybody has a different endocannabinoid system, so their dosing may be different, and you might be onto something. We're like that with other products. Like I'm like that with really expensive skin products or hair products. I will take it down to the T. I mean, we had a toothpaste that I love. I'm cutting off the back just so I can get to the end because it's that expensive. So when we have products that really cost us a pretty penny, we are probably using it more conservatively. But it's still something that no matter what, you eventually run out and you have to replace. I myself just utilizing our lock and key remedies extreme potency tincture. I probably go through that on a 30-day, maybe 45-day supply, and that's going to run about $130 every month. It's really great tincture. It works really well for me, especially with all my travel, but that is something that I cannot get subsidized in any way, shape, or form through any of the insurance, no Cobra, none of that will help you with this.
Insurance doesn't cover the medical marijuana?
No, it doesn't. And everyone should be prepared to take on those bills. And I would also suggest fight against some of the laws that are being put in place to put more heavily taxes on a medical marijuana industry. Most states are not taking the time to really develop the medical marijuana industry within the state. And that's a detriment, not only for the medical marijuana patients, but for adult use as well. It doesn't get any less expensive in adult use. So there's a couple different ways that I think the industry could deal with it. And you know me, with Rubik's Cubes, I'm always like, how do we solve this puzzle? There's some win-wins on the business side and on the consumer side. For example, just as a courtesy, starting a very strong loyalty program for medical marijuana patients only would be a great way to be a surrogate insurance. Maybe they pay in a subscription way per month, and that allows them to have a specific amount that they have access to for a copay only. I know a lot of people, myself included, especially for good flower, I'd absolutely participate in it. You saw what my high of the week was finding a $100 ounce of flower. People like to buy in bulk. There's a reason why Sam's Club exists, so maybe it would work in a way to deal with any inventory that's rising, but it's available. Like, for example, you really do with produce, you want to get rid of the inventory. You don't want to sit on shelves too long. It's the same way with flower. And so maybe the medical marijuana patients can have more benefits in that way, more subsidies for that. I think the industry can help resolve it, and the big companies can help participate in improving the costs for their medical marijuana patients.
Yeah, we're definitely hoping that we could see some drop in the medical marijuana programs. However, there are a bunch of countries that have government-run pharmacies that allow medical marijuana patients to have access to those type of products.
So little to none. I mean, we talked about Thailand, Germany has a program as well. Canada is as well in the government-run pharmacy business. A lot of people scoff at that a little bit because they are always worried about the product, because our own government has cannabis that's pretty bad. And that's the only cannabis you can use when you're doing FDA-approved trials. But other governments, not necessarily the case. Plus, and this is just one myth I want to dispel. All cannabis, all cannabinoid products aren't necessarily created equal, but from an adult use perspective versus medical marijuana, it's still all coming from the same plant. And so when we think about medical patients and medical marijuana needs, you just really need to make sure you're supplying that plant or the flower and maybe a really good high potency tincture and or oil. You don't need all the rest of the sophistication and the sexy that we see in the adult use for it to still be an effective thing.
Well, you know, I know about sexy, baby.
Girl, you are always finding the new.
We can't give away too much. You know, would be a great main topic, but it is a hot topic, so we can't give them too many jewels on how to do their medical marijuana program. You know what I'm saying?
This is true. So maybe we will make it a main topic, but what it does make me always think about is how often people are running into issues when you are touching the plant. And so I'm always looking for ways to get people in the industry by not touching the plant.
Yes.
And so that is what brings us to our main topic, which is 7 ways to make money in the cannabis industry right now. Right now. Immediately. And of course, we got to do a little countdown style, but I want to give a shout out to I1 Digital, Cassius Magazine, online. Actually, I wrote the article for them to highlight these 7 opportunities in 2018, still relevant today. And we'll actually be able to speak a little bit more about some of that success.
I love you, but what is iDigital? You might have to, what's that link to?
My goodness.
You know Cassius Life, but what's that link to?
Yeah, so I1 Digital is the parent company for Cassius. I'm sorry. Have you heard of TV One, News One, all of the ones.
Okay.
And
Thank
it
you
is,
for that one.
yes, a lot of Black programs programming or multicultural programming, and Cassius is about multicultural women who are unapologetic like ourselves.
Yes, that is us.
Yes. So I wrote this article and we reposted it on the WeedHead.com. So you need to check it out so you can find out more. So let's jump right into it. Okay. So number 7 on our countdown. Number seven is to become an expert for the industry. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean that you are a cannabis expert necessarily, but it means that you are taking your expertise that you already have in a mainstream market or whatever you've been credentialed in, and you are crossing it over into the industry. I'll give a perfect example, always is the example with the attorneys, because this happened the first 2 years, I kid you not, a lot, where I would meet attorneys that were so excited about all the new information I provided and what they're learning about cannabis and the legalization. But when they wanted to cross over, the first thing they would say is that they wanted to have their own edibles company or something on those lines. And while I don't fault anybody for wanting to touch a plant, it comes with a lot of drama. And I often wonder, why not just be an attorney in the industry? Be an expert in your own expertise where you've been credentialed in the industry. I am preaching, you're right. Because I find that a lot of people are not doing it enough. But that is number 7. And it's really easy to do. The first thing is come with an expertise. So don't try to invent yourself, reinvent yourself, come up with some new thing. What are you credentialed in? Whether it's being an attorney, whether it's being a social media girl, whether it's or a guy, whether it's being a contractor, bring your professionalism here and look for that cross section between your profession and cannabis. And it might be a lot of different cross sections, right? It might be a lot of different places. An attorney, it could be first thing people think about is criminal, but it might also be contract, business to business. It might just be compliance, because a lot of the cannabis companies need to be in strict compliance. Okay?
Applying for a license.
Yes, it might just be that, right? So you want to see where the cross section is, and you want to figure out what your play is and decide right then and there, this is where I'm going to stand on this particular X. Next is you want to let the world know, and that's usually done through social media, but in this case it's professional social media, which I think of as LinkedIn, but there are other ones as well. It's simply just adding cannabis as one of your verticals. You don't have to take away your history. You don't have to take away your 20 years experience as an attorney. You simply have to add cannabis as one of your areas of interest and or expertise. And you very much want to educate yourself as quickly as possible, but be your expert, be the expert you are in the mainstream in the industry. Okay. That's number 7.
Number 7.
Okay.
Number 6.
Okay, number 6. Well, one of the ways to become an expert very quickly is to write for the industry, of course, and to say your opinion. I did so, like I wanted to share how I figured out ways to get into the industry, and I did so with Cassius. But oftentimes, if you're an expert, you're too busy being that expert. So maybe you're an attorney and you have so many clients you can't write. So you may have to hire someone who can write for you as a ghostwriter. So another way, number 6, to get into the industry is to become a cannabis writer. So I lucked out because we happen to have a great writer in the family.
She's great at writing.
Shout out to our word wizard, Imani Dawson. And so as a industry strategist, I got to work with the best of the best, and I can't think of anybody better who would be able to put into words, bring to life the way I think about the industry and the way I strategize. So, but there are a lot of other people like her who have history in copywriting, media, and script writing.
You could also do things like be a cannabis writer for opinion.
Yes.
If you aren't an actual writer, but you're decent enough to put together a paragraph or a couple essays, you could definitely put together a opinion piece of what's going on in the cannabis industry right now, what you're an expert at in a different industry, and what does it look like in cannabis? Where do you see it goes in the future? Things like if you try different products, maybe you need a opinion piece on that. Maybe your product didn't help you microdose and you got a little crazy. You never know. So even if you're not like a writer, you can still write in the cannabis industry.
That is so true. Blogging and all of that creates content that drives traffic. And nowadays, that is what is the name of the game. People want to get traffic to their site.
Yes, they do.
So yes, moving on.
Number 5.
Number 5, you can get into the industry by becoming a social media manager. So maybe you can't necessarily write long form, or you don't see yourself as doing that, but you are the king or queen of tweetables. I got got a queen of Twitter bills right here.
Well,
one-liners for reals.
The one-liners, sometimes they just be rolling off the tongue, but clickbait is real.
It is.
In any industry right now. In order for you to have a successful company, you have to be visible online. What a lot of cannabis companies are really finding out right now is that it's not really social media friendly. So you do have to find someone that can do a quick, great clickbait subject line for you on your social media. And that is a huge opportunity. And because they are blocking a lot of cannabis content, like if you're doing hashtag pot or 420,
right.
If you're using cannabis or acronyms for cannabis, you will see a lot more reach, but they're going to ask you to write the copy too.
Yes. So, and then I would also add that to become a social media manager, you want to make sure you understand the tools, and you maybe already have them set up. Most people are, pretty unsophisticated when it comes to their personal management. So having previous experience managing other people's brands makes it a lot easier for you to already come with the tools to play in that space. If you do it for your regular job, then this is definitely a place that you can do it as a side hustle, because a lot of companies are really interested in having people not only create the content, but plan it and post it for them as well.
Sometimes the hardest part is planning and posting the content.
Yes, we definitely had a lot of clients where that is a big hurdle for them. And so social media manager comes into play. Another place that we've seen quite a few usages for our clients comes into number 4.
Number 4. You like my little
I
voice?
do. You're like, okay, with sports announcer. But number 4 is become a brand ambassador.
Yes.
Yes. So when social media really comes into play is if you already have a big enough following that you can become an influencer and or brand ambassador. Digital brand ambassadors are the biggest growing group in cannabis, but in general, right? I used them a lot when I was in corporate America at Target and Victoria's Secret, and it helped drive a lot of organic traffic. People who never knew about a brand gets to know a brand through the ambassador often. We've done that for a lot of clients as well.
Well, yes, and you get great swag. So like that's also on the top of my list because I love swag.
Yes, you do.
But becoming a brand ambassador is really important because you are able to really know the mission of the cannabis companies you really like. And when you're a brand ambassador, you will be able to educate other people throughout the outside of the cannabis industry that may not know.
That's so true. And in fact, I think it makes it a little bit easier for you to quickly become educated if you align with a brand that works with your authentic self. A lot of people think, oh, well, I'm not an Instagram model. Well, truthfully told, it's better that you wouldn't be. You want to be someone that everyday people kind of identify with, because what we're seeing is it's those micro influencers, micro or regional influencers that are really making the difference. If I can go state by state and people get to know my new cannabis brand, I know when things become legal globally, I'll have a base to grow with. Minorities for Medical Marijuana has done that quite a bit ourselves, to be perfectly honest, building our base through influencers locally and us coming together nationally on one mission.
Yeah, and right now you'll see it as really a highlighted experience when you're using brand ambassadors on social media, because now they're making you, if you're paying certain people versus getting free swag, they're making you put hashtag ad in front of your copy. Mm-hmm. And a lot of, if you don't really know about social media, you won't know that. So with your brand ambassadors, it's a little bit better of a partnership.
Yeah, it is. And so that is another easy way to get into the industry. And really all you need is good social media presence, ability to pitch yourself, go after the brands that you like yourself, and you can integrate naturally into your lifestyle. And then you can get started. Mm-hmm. Now that leads me to number 3.
Number 3.
Okay. And number 3 is becoming an educator. So a brand ambassador is sort of that superficial level of education. You're going to get the education information probably from the brand, and you're mostly educating consumers on the brand. Yeah. But to become an educator is going a bit deeper. The WeedHead & Company is a company that is focused, as far as its mission, on education as a primary pillar. And what does that mean? We've now written books, we've written courses. Essentially, we are very focused on trying to make sure people are educated about transitioning into the space, educated around healthiness and wellness as it pertains to cannabis, and educated around advocacy. There are a few other groups like that, but you can individually become an educator. So say that you've now become this amazing attorney within cannabis, which can, by the way, happen in 6 months in the industry based on the projects you work on. You may want to educate other attorneys on how they do this. Actually, that's called CLE. And that would be very lucrative if you are an instructor for CLE. At this point, they're hiring people like myself because there's such a shortage of folks within that particular discipline. But the same goes for construction. If you're a social media manager, if you have any experience in cannabis right now, you have the ability to turn it around into something more formal that is a formal educational program that people can pay for and help drive revenue on the side or as a full-time thing.
For sure.
Yeah, I'll give one last shout out. Greenflower Media is one of my favorites because I've been utilizing it since it was free. And that's no shade to them, but their content started off free. So it tells you a little bit of a guide. Maybe you start off free, you build an audience, and now they're at a point where you have to pay for the really good stuff. And they got great education. So
yeah, Greenflower Media has some really good educational videos. I really love like educational videos.
Yes.
Like, really my niche.
And they do a good job on it, yeah. But now you have to pay for it.
Well,
that's how you turn it into a business, which now
we know education ain't free in America.
No, but it is an ability to capitalize on it in this industry, and we do need it. So I'm always encouraging more people to become educators in the space. But make sure you're not educating on bro science. Make sure you're sharing real information that can actually be helpful. So moving on, let's go into number two. Number two is to become a digital investor, which actually has multiple meanings. So we're going to kick it out for you and show you what those meanings actually are. The first would be maybe you are a digital real estate investor. What does that mean? Well, I bought the WeedHead.com for $8.99 way back in 2016, and within 3 months, someone was trying to buy it from me for $1,500. That was a little cha-ching moment for me. Of course, I didn't sell it because you can go to the WeedHead.com and find it still. However, it showed me the value of URLs. And I started to see within 6 months of being in the industry, GoDaddy was getting in on it as well. They were valuing high search terms at a ridiculous price point. For example, at one point, blackcannabis.com was $10,000 as a minimum bid in order to get that URL. So, of course, me being me, I bought hundreds of URLs. I own hundreds of URLs that are cannabis, fun, worded URLs that capitalize on their search term viability.
Yeah, they don't even know how many digital investments you have even outside of cannabis.
Yes, because it works outside of cannabis, but this was one where it was a real money grab.
Oh, yes.
Because there was so many things that's still available.
Well, that is true. That's really, really smart. Another way to be an investor is if you like to invest in stocks. We have in our family, quite a few people have cannabis stocks.
That's true.
We're getting it on the ground. I know people that are trading their stocks still. You know, I know people in my family that trade stocks, and that's part of where they trade from. And so it's pretty exciting to see that there's so many people that's interested in digital investment.
Yes, and I can't wait until we are able to bring on one of my favorites. She's also my soror. I won't give it away, but she's an expert in investment, and she is now added to her expertise. She's become an expert in the cannabis space and understands cannabis stocks, and she's going to teach us a few things that we can talk about. But becoming a digital investor is number two, and I bet you guys can't guess number one. So I'm gonna just tell you. Number one is to become an independent sales rep for a hemp-derived CBD-only cannabis brand, or cannabis accessories brand. And you're like, what are you talking about, Dasheeda? Well, of course, sometimes you gotta show them better than you can tell them. And in addition to education, the WeedHead & Company is also focused on e-commerce. So we've spent a better part of the year testing out this way to make money, and it's certainly an opportunity. But it first starts with building and bringing in brands that you actually believe in. So I want to introduce my new girl.
Yes, you got a new one.
I got a new one. This is the Kimberly, and the Kimberly is part of the Urbana collection of smell-proof bags. You know, I'm the weed head, and I always talk about it, and I pretty much do not go anywhere without my cannabis in some way, shape, or form. And even when you're using hemp, there's still terpenes, and so there can still be a smell, and I don't necessarily want everybody to smell. But I've been in love with the Urbana brand for the last year and a half. I had another bag, and it stood up.
I feel like it was way more than a year and a half.
I mean, I don't want to out myself completely, but now I have upgraded to the Kimberly, which you can find on the weedhead.com/shop. It is $59.99. And this is an example of number one, becoming an independent sales rep for a brand. This is a cannabis accessory. It is cute and it really does work. It's smell proof, y'all.
Right. It's got mad pockets and everything.
It does. You can hide whatever you need, but more importantly, it's about being stylish, but also being discreet.
And these are some really great tips. And it really just reminds me that this is like literally some cliff notes of how to succeed in the cannabis industry, because you get way more tips, way more wheels turning of how you can make money in the cannabis industry. As a bonus too, it's a workbook, so you could write it out, and the questions really help you dissect and put together your business strategy.
Agreed, and I'm glad you said it, because I was about to say it. This is just the tip of the iceberg. The cannabis industry is an iceberg. It's so vast, and that's why I wrote How to Succeed in the Cannabis Industry. It's now on its 3rd edition, and we done put some stank on it, y'all. It is very, very exciting to see how it has actually grown and how much more information I'm able to provide for people, because the more I get into the industry, the more I'm able to learn and share that with folks. So yeah, you can get that on the weedhead.com/shop. And for a very limited time, the first 100 people to place pre-orders actually get a signed copy.
Oh, that's pretty dope.
Yes. But when we announced that, a lot of people were really like, wait, what if I missed that 100? And I was like, guess what, girls? We are going to be sharing our success in cannabis through a book signing tour kicking off in December. So where in the world is the WeedHead? Well, December 4th, I will be in Maryland at the Hemp Haven Wellness Center kicking off my Sharing Success in Cannabis tour. I'm very excited.
That is pretty exciting. That might be the last time you're out on the East Coast, though.
Yes, it's a little snowy. And the last time I was in New York, I was freezing, and I'm retired from that, y'all. That hustle from the train station to the house, I was like, oh no more.
I can't relate, but you know, you will be back in Las Vegas for MJ BizCon, of course.
Yes, you can't miss MJ BizCon week. I feel like we're kind of plugging them, but the reality is it is a big conference, and whether they're plugged by themselves, and it's a big enough conference that you can actually just come and not necessarily attend and, you know, be fine setting up a bunch of meetings. We are participating in the week because it is in our backyard. December 9th through the 13th is the week. So you want to start looking at tickets now. Minorities for Medical Marijuana will be hosting a dice mixer. And we also are part of the MJ BizCon Association Day. So look out for that. Subscribe to theweedhead.com in order for you to really know where in the world we'll be.
I know that's right. And don't forget to subscribe to us on SoundCloud and on iTunes podcast.
Yes, because She Blazes here.
We are there. If you're listening in your ears, I'm waving at you right now.
Hey.
Hey. And please follow us on Facebook at She Blaze, Instagram at She_Blaze.
And of course, I am the WeedHead, and this is my company. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at The Cannabis CEO, y'all.
Okay.
All right, well, blaze trails. Have a great week.